So you've been wanting to research companies, but you don't necessarily have the time to do it yourself, or you don't know how to do it yourself. In this series of videos, I'm going to be going step by step through my entire process from beginning to end on how I find companies, what I look for when I do my initial research on the companies. If they pass my initial research, how do I value and evaluate them after reading their financial statements? I will go step by step, including valuations when we get to that point, in how to evaluate companies. My name is Jason Rivera, and welcome to Value Investing Journey Case Studies. Hey, Jason here in part one of this what's going to be an ongoing case study series from focusing on companies from around the world. I'm going to show you step by step my entire process from beginning to end on how I find, value, and evaluate businesses for investment. In this part one, I'm going to show you exactly what I do when I search for any companies. These companies you can see here are a list of Filipino ADRs. ADR is an American Depository Receipt. These are Filipino listed companies listed on foreign Filipino exchanges that also list on the OTC, the over-the-counter market in the United States. They do this, foreign companies do this because the United States stock markets are the biggest and busiest stock markets with the most volume and liquidity in the entire world. So these companies do list on the OTC markets to get a greater audience for their shares in their companies. So what I do here, I literally go step by step. I eliminate companies like utilities, mining, there's some oil and gas, some banks, oil and gas. I get rid of these companies automatically because I don't understand how to value and evaluate these companies. So I literally go step by step, put each ticker into, where's this company? Here's another one. Here's an example. I put each ticker into Morningstar. Where's my main Morningstar? There we go. Let's open up a new tab. This is exactly what I do. ABTZY. And people, I tell this to people all the time, this is how my process. They don't believe that I actually do this. I've done this on the entire OTC markets at one time. A few years ago, I downloaded the entire OTC markets database, which was at that time, I think, around 25,000 companies. Did the same process. Went one by one to find the best companies I could. There we go. I do this. If on a preliminary basis, I don't even do my preliminary analysis at this point, which we'll get to in the next video. But at this point, I put the ticker in here. And sorry, I'm on the new Morningstar beta site, and for me, it takes forever. I've heard from other investors it takes forever as well, so I don't know what they're doing or why they switched over to this beta site. Other than to get more advertisements on here. That's the only thing I've noticed, but it takes forever to load. So if I see on a preliminary basis here stuff that fits my main criteria, which is mainly this, I open up this tab and it should open on the quote. Typically I focus on smaller companies, but these, since they're on the OTC market, I also focus on small and obscure companies. So these have less volume, are traded less, are more obscure in the United States. So that's why I will focus on bigger companies in this kind of scenario. Open up this. If the company passes my kind of preliminary look, which again is operating margin greater than 10% on a regular basis, share count has stayed roughly the same, and again I'll go over this more in detail in the preliminary analysis video in the next session, but again I just do a quick look here to make sure. Produce a ton of free cash flow, which is great. We look for free cash flow. Operating margin again is fantastic. ROIC is pretty good, not necessarily as high as I would like it. Free cash flow to sales is fantastic for anything over 5%. Cash reserves pretty good. These debt levels, we'll have to get to the balance sheet again, and when I get to the actual preliminary analysis, we'll go through this, but that is pretty high for my liking. Then their cash conversion cycle has risen quite a bit. So that's another not necessarily great sign that it look like, but again, I do this step by step, look at kind of these preliminary things before I even get to my preliminary analysis checklist to see the companies I want to look at, and then I eliminate all companies that don't fit that criteria, and these are the Filipino companies right now that I'm going to be looking at up here. Oop. These ones. I've already got the ABTZY in the list up here somewhere, but I just wanted to show you quickly before we get to the actual preliminary analysis what my kind of process was. I do this with every company. I do this with United States companies. I do this with Brazilian companies. I do this same process for any country I'm looking at around the world. A couple years ago when Brazil was having some major issues, I brought up the same Brazilian list, Brazilian ADR list. Look for companies there. Same thing with Greece a couple years ago. Indonesia. I've got companies, 23 countries represented currently on my watch list. We're going to be going through a ton of them in these preliminary analysis and preliminary analysis videos. Eventually, with a list that we trim down, we will be looking at how to go through valuations, how to read financial statements, financial reports. I may even do some live video type case studies where you can ask questions if we can figure out logistically and technically how to do that. So I hope you enjoyed this first video. Make sure to subscribe, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on the blog or wherever you're seeing this. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified anytime we release a new video in this series, because again, this will become a regular and ongoing series, and the plan is not only to teach a ton but also to find potentially great investments to invest in. So if you're interested in that kind of real world case study, let me know in the comments below, and make sure again to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video where we'll begin doing our preliminary analysis and going through our preliminary analysis checklist step by step on one of these companies up here. Thanks.